So welcome to the Getting Real with Sabeeta and Mireille show. And today we have our two first gentlemen, guests, because we've had women so far, but today we're happy to have two gentlemen. So Mr. Adigun Temitayo from Nigeria and Neti from Malaysia, and we're gonna focus on the coronavirus and the impact on the human, on the human impact of coronavirus. So my name is Mireille. I'm based in Perth in Australia. I'm one of the hosts of the show. I do a lot of things. I have another show, the Greatness Engineering Hour show, once a week, where I bring, amazing people. I'm an engineer by background. I'm an entrepreneur as well, and I've worked around the world. So that's all I'm going to say today. So up to you, Sabeeta, for today's show.
Thank you, guys. Welcome to the Mireille and Sabeeta show. However you want to flip it, we've got an amazing cast with us. Mireille, thank you for all that you're doing. I want to say a special welcome. We're trying to balance, we're big on diversity and equality here. So we've been doing ladies before. We're balancing the numbers before the year has ended. We've got Adigun and Neti. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
So I'm Sabeeta. I'm the CEO of Cardinal Services. I recently got my doctorate. It focuses on agility and transformation, which are the areas I consult in. I met Neti during my time in Malaysia. Adigun I met a couple of weeks ago, and Mireille and I have known each other for a while. So I'm not going to talk too much about me because you know all about me and Mireille. So we're going to pass it on to our guest. Neti is the Executive Director and Principal Consultant at Alliance Safety and Security Services, SDN-BHD, headquartered in Malaysia. Now, I know Neti has been doing a lot of fantastic work and tracking. I mean, I've been able to keep abreast of the Malaysian numbers because I'm still very, very closely tied to Malaysia, having lived there for 7 years. Through Neti's postings, he's kept me updated. So Neti, I'm just going to pass it on to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let's get into it.
All right. Okay, my name is Neti Ikomatu. Born in Malaysia, the southern state called Johor, right? And I've been in the consultancy business since 2003, right? Focusing basically more into occupational safety, health, environmental, and also security programs, right? And our organization is registered with the Ministry of Human Resource, and what we do is that we do a lot of training and consultancy services, specifically for emergency response in terms of fire, first aid, and things like that. And we also look into work with other organizations. I'm also with the International Association of Emergency Managers. It's a NGO. In fact, our HQ is in US, and we have the regional office in Shanghai, and we have about 8,000 members worldwide. And what we do is that we do search and rescue works for any country that has gone through any natural disasters like earthquake, tsunami, and so forth. I'm also working very closely with Mercy Malaysia. Mercy Malaysia is more medical related. So if there are any organizations or country that requires assistance in medical, then our support team go there, doctors and nurses who are full-time, goes down to that country, help out, set up the medical center, help them out. So just a little bit of myself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Neti. Welcome to the show, and we really look forward to have an idea of how COVID was managed in Malaysia and and see in Asia Pacific as well. So we also have Adigun here, Adigun from Nigeria, and Adigun is always the first. He's been the first ambassador of Mireille Toulekima Global Leadership Organization, and he is one of the first men on the show today as well. So Adigun, let us know who you are.
Good afternoon, everybody. Very excited Sabeeta, thank you so much. This is just establishing the real concept of promoting equality and equity. I must be able to say thank you to both of you for saying the word and living by the word. Far beyond equality, saying about equality, this is what is called equality. Two men on board today, straight great women on board. Thank you so much. My name is once again is Adigun Temitayo. I both share the same background with Mireille. I'm an engineer by profession, a mechanical engineer by profession. My experience far back in the last 18 years, I'm the president of Wish of Hope Rising Foundation, an organization focusing on giving hope to the hopeless and underprivileged, including people with disability. And our major focus is on the children in the term of education. Second focus is in terms of women empowerment. How can we make women to have the voice and the right capacity to be able to fit into the ecosystem in the world? We also focus on bringing capacity building to rural communities. Now, as an NGO in Africa, we covered Nigeria and Ghana in the last 10 years. We have been able to impact over 85,000 lives in the last 10 years directly. Now, our indirect impact is over 200,000 across the two countries. We are into medical outreach, where we do free medical consultation, free surgery, we do free empowerment. We have empowered over 1,000 people living with disability in Africa. And most especially, we have been able to impact more on the women's sectors in terms of ensuring that every woman that goes to pregnancy delivers safely without any form of complication. I was fortunate to meet Mireille some 2 years ago in Ghana, where we had some global, the World Business Angel Investors Forum, where we met in Ghana. Mireille was one of the chief hosts then that welcomed us to Ghana. It was a very big for me, myself and Mireille to actually sit down and really discuss more on what Africa actually needed to move to the next phase of development. Not just being a developing country, but to become a developed country with a more sustainable solution and a robust one. Also, I joined Mireille Global Leadership Foundation some 2 years ago as the first female ambassador. Thanks so much, Mireille, for giving that opportunity. I really appreciate it a lot. Presently, in 2 years ago, I joined the board of the global board of Global Goodwill Ambassador for US. Richard DePila is the global president. I became the vice president of project management and development. I sit down on a lot of NGOs in terms of bringing sustainable strategy to ensure that we are not just talking about being an humanitarian, but writing our name in the heart of people, making a difference. To be an humanitarian is different from being a true humanitarian. And this has actually given me a lot of edge. That gives me the opportunity to sit down in a lot of organizations. Also, I consult for a lot of private organizations in terms of engineering management, reliability, project management, of equipment for biscuits, wafers. Not just mention manufacturing equipment. I've been into it in the last 10, 15 years. It's really a big honor to be on this show today to discuss about pandemic and the cost impact to human life. During that cost pandemic, it was time. I believe everybody that is coming on this show today, you are here to learn more about how all of us get involved when this pandemic started. It's not just about pandemic, it's about our involvement in the control. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you, Adigun. Adigun is an amazing ambassador, an amazing humanitarian doing tremendous work, to give a voice to the needy and create sustainable solution in Africa. So, I mean, there's this pandemic that is here, and I think, we all from a different, place in the world, and the pandemic has been managed differently in all our where we live. So I just want to open the discussion to know exactly, and I'm going to start with Neti, to let us know how the pandemic has been managed, what are the numbers, and how serious it is, and what how was it managed, and where we are right now in Malaysia, and if you have numbers in the region where you are.
Okay, thank you, Mireille. And actually, to start off with, we only started having a controlled movement order. We started in March this year, on the 19th of March, right? At that particular time, for 3 months, everyone had to stay home. None were allowed to go out, except once a week, when you can go to the mall, get your groceries, and then they only allow you probably in an hour or so. You got to be very strict compliant with that. So that went on for 3 months. So everyone had to stay home. At that particular time, I believe it was managed pretty well, right? Then after that, then we had this what partial release. That means they allow you to go to work after the third month. That means you're talking about after June, right? They allow you to go to work, but then they only allow you to have 10% of total population per organization, right? You're not allowed to have more than that, and then you also have to do it on a bi-weekly basis. That means if you're working this week, then you take off the next week, you come in the week after, someone else takes over. So there's been a lot of work from home, actually. Includes the government as well, right? Private sectors and the government, they've adhered to that. But later part, I think what we call the Sabah movement, where we had a lot of, in fact, there was the what we call election, the state election that went on in Sabah, right? That is East Malaysia, right? And that's when things started escalating, right? A lot of our politicians and government officers and all that went there. They were not prepared, and then when they came back, they didn't realize that they were infected, because probably about 12 to 14 days to realize, that you've been infected. And so it started spreading down in Kuala Lumpur, right? The numbers started getting bigger. And then after which they started controlling it again. But at this juncture, they were not actually in full control, because being humans, it takes a lot of discipline, right? For us to ensure that our neighbors are not infected, our family members are not infected. I think that is one of the things that lacks here. Probably because economically people have been going down, right? A lot of people have been affected. In fact, in Malaysia, I think there are more than 500,000 people who are now currently looking for jobs, right? That's the impact. Our population of 30 million. That's an impact. And not only that, a lot of organizations have been closing down. Hotels that have been in business for 30, 40 years closing down. Companies, that have been in the market for a long period of time closing down. And that has actually impacted the economy very badly, right? And because of that, I think people stopped, or rather started defying the law, started going out, getting exposed, and then there's this culture in Malaysia, which what we call a lackadaisical attitude. Some people, right? They just don't care, right? It's a true thing, right? They just don't care, and this has actually escalated the problem. As of date, we have in total, 90,816 cases in Malaysia. That is why when I put out on Facebook, we already beat China, right?
Whoa.
And then,
Wow.
yeah, and we have, as of date, 432 deaths. Of reason, we have been having, in fact, we hardly had death cases, but of reason, we have been having more than 7, 9 cases a day, right? That is actually escalated quite a bit. In fact, today alone, we have 1,683 cases, right? And the areas that are more affected are in the central region of Kuala Lumpur, the whole state of the Klang Valley, right? And then East Malaysia, Sabah is quite badly affected. Johor has been on the moderate range where I am, but again, because they look at the figure, if your district is 40 cases and above, then they will tighten the control here. So this is how the government has been controlling. We're just hoping that by 2021, all of us can have a better time. Economically, it can be better. We're just hoping. But again, vaccine is still on a long waiting list. All right. I'm not sure when Malaysia is going to receive that. Pfizer have come out with vaccine, and like what Sabeeta mentioned just now, some places, vaccine is available. Some countries have already booked, X amount of vaccine now that, but Malaysia, we're still in the waiting list.
So Natty, I'd like to ask you, I know you're located pretty close to the Singaporean border, and I know a number of Malaysians make that daily trip across the border for work. I know a couple who have not been employed or have, had to stay on the other side of the border. What is happening with them? And I know it's a significant number we're talking about, primarily in services. And these are the people that pretty much look after the entire family and extended family. And I know they have significantly impacted. What do you see happening? Are the borders opening? Are they allowed free movement into Singapore now?
Okay. Before COVID-19, there were about 200,000 commuters going daily in and out of Singapore, right? As soon as Singapore was impacted with high cases of COVID-19, the borders closed, right? Both sides of the borders closed. Of reason, probably a month back, they allowed senior managers and those who are required to come across into Malaysia. They give you 7 days of a quarantine period. They do a swab test on you to see whether you're okay, and then they allow you to come and work in Malaysia, but very small numbers. You don't have large numbers at the moment, and many of those working in Singapore now are jobless. Some are taking odd jobs, trying. Some are doing 2 jobs. Now I think if you look at what you have, Uber, Grab, and all that, there are more of them doing that services now as part-timers. Some work as security officers, odd job in factories. But again, because of the economy, factories are not taking in people. So pretty a large number, quite badly affected by it.
So the unemployment went to the roof, and
Yes, it did.
because I mean, by locking down people, obviously you slow down everything, and it's not always, especially in Malaysia, a lot of people are very small businesses, and then as soon
Yes,
as you stop, that's it. It's not to recover. It's just so difficult. So,
correct.
what was the situation in Nigeria, Adigun? And you've been working with community. You've been working to the regional, and I know that in Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa, particularly, the informal sector is actually quite, is actually quite important. And so, how was it managed? The pandemic, and what's happening right now?
Thank you so much, Nati. Thank you for that. Your background of Malaysia. In Nigeria, is quite different. In Africa, absolutely terrible. Now, the pandemic, the shutdown started around mid of March in Nigeria. And when you look at the business, the economic climate of Nigeria and Africa, over 65% of the working class are self-employed that depend so much on what comes in daily for them to survive. The first challenges at the point of lockdown in Nigeria was how will the traders, how will the middle shop owners survive? When it happens in Nigeria, some companies were categorized into essential commodity companies, which give them some opportunity to still continue to operate. But I think I have a more practical view of this because I actually lost a colleague of mine at the first 2 weeks of the COVID.
Oh, we're losing your Adigun again.
Now, I was forced to shut down. The manufacturing plant that cater for over 6,000 workers per day was forced to shut down. And the way the manufacturing sector works in Nigeria is pay as you go. If you don't work, you don't get paid. If you don't go to your shop, you don't get livelihood. This was the biggest dilemma that makes this lockdown in Nigeria to be very, very harsh on fundamental human rights of people. Because many people, like for example,
I think we've lost Adigun.
Adigun again. The connection is not
they go
always very
daily
good.
to go and fetch for their livelihood. It was very difficult for anybody to go out at that point in time. And it was so difficult for people to survive. Now, as of today, we have gotten over 869,000 cases in Nigeria. Hello, Sabeeta.
I can hear you, Adigun. I can hear you.
Yes. Now, over 869,000 cases have been recorded as of today. Today, we have gotten over 1,201 death cases recorded. Now, in Nigeria and in Africa as a whole, I think what makes us to have a lesser record of mortality is, I want to believe, is because of our gene. Because we have a mortality rate when other countries are recording high mortality rate, the mortality rate in Nigeria and Africa as a whole was lower. However, now the impact of the pandemic was so much on those that are trading, on the trading class, which is the lower class, because at that time all markets were shut down. It's difficult for market men to go to the market to go and trade. Now, when you come to the private sector, we have a bigger challenge in the private sector, which makes it difficult for most private industry to really keep their workforce. A lot of private establishment reduces their workforce by virtually almost 35 to 40%. In my own network, I have over 50% of my friends that have lost their job. Now, even those remaining 50% that have not lost their job because of the impact of COVID, they were forced to take a salary cut. A salary cut close to 30%. The impact of COVID was so high. But in terms of the management, as an NGO, what we did was to intensify more on the awareness, on sensitizing people that COVID is actually real. COVID is not a gainsay. If right now, the major challenge now under the management of COVID during the period of the pandemic is we have people that are LD carriers. You might have COVID, but you will not know. Now, we have those that are asymptomatics, that immediately they contacted the virus, it starts showing in their health status. And as an end, what we did that time was to let community know what are the symptoms, early symptoms of this COVID-19. And because of this, a lot of other NGOs also take this step to increase awareness, increase sensitization, and this actually impacted on the low trend that we have in Africa. Also, as an NGO concerned, we don't just assume that I'm safe, my family are safe, my children are safe. What we try to do is we use all our social media platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, all our social medias, to push daily on preventive approach to prevent the spread of the virus. And if you look at Nigeria, what makes it to be difficult at a point to maintain the lockdown is because of hunger. People are not able to take care of their daily needs again. You see people that we see people, the area boys, thugs coming on the street, attacking those shops that have been closed just for them to be able to have something to eat. But in a nutshell, management of pandemic in Nigeria was actually a top notch, because a lot of NGOs, a lot of CSOs, a lot of industry really bring a lot of flavor on board to ensure that people knows more about the reality of COVID. And that has actually helped us. That's one. Two, what has actually helped in the management of COVID in Africa is because we believe so much in our apps. Let me use that word. Like, for example, my family, my wife will tell me in the morning before I go out of the house, you must take honey mixed with ginger, mixed with garlic, mixed with lemon. And it has become
Yeah, so and that's, I mean, we're laughing, but they are remedy, traditional remedy that actually work, you know. I don't know if they work all the time, but I've heard, I have my family in Gabon, some remedy that people use, especially poor people who can't afford to go and buy drugs, just had, those remedy, and they managed to go through. So it's not, something
It's
that we have to just put, aside.
it's funny that you say that, Adigun, because I am actually having my lemon and ginger, but my son calls me the bush doctor because he plays soccer and he's always out there with the varsity team. So whenever he comes home, I have a little concoction I made. It's turmeric and ginger and lemongrass, and I make a tea for him. He hates it, but it works.
At the point, I took ginger to some point that ginger was smelling on my body.
So it means you're cleaning really well. So that's
Africa has really managed the spread of COVID. As of today, Nigeria has recorded over 1,201 death cases. Now, and we have recorded over 869,000 positive cases in Nigeria. But what has happened in Africa and in Nigeria is our recovery rate is faster because of most of the local remedies that we have really leveraged on to really support us. This is just an overview of how we have been able to manage COVID and the pandemic in Africa and in Nigeria. But in reality, over 35% of business has closed down. But do you know one good thing about this COVID? COVID has given birth in Lagos, where I reside. It has given birth to over 120 new digital businesses. Pandemic also has increased the bandwidth of logistic companies. Because nobody wants to go to supermarket again, nobody wants to go to eatery again. But most of these new digital companies, you just go online, place order for bottle of champagne and one roll of shawarma. In less than 1 hour, it's going to be at your doorstep. So digital companies are now coming up. A lot of digitalization of economic now become more faster than we expected. And in Nigeria alone, you don't need to go to supermarket again. They will bring what you needed to your doorstep in Nigeria. I think we need to give thumbs up to pandemic for opening our eyes to digitalization of business.
So I think you're right. We have seen a significant paradigm shift. For a lot of people who are tangible shoppers, like I like to go out there and experience shopping, I've had to adjust myself. So it's also a personal adjustment. I've seen it being a cultural shift for my mother, who's 73, and she's very traditional in the way she does things. So I think we have been pushed into the new paradigm. You're right, Adigun. We see a lot of digital opportunities for businesses. We've seen the price of Zoom shares on the stock market. It's amazing where the business opportunities are being transformed. I think you made two really good points. You talked about diet. Diet is so important. I think the pandemic has actually opened our eyes to living a healthier lifestyle, being more conscious of the things we put into our body. People are cooking more home food now. They're having more home cooked meals than ever before. And we know the value of nutrition in a home-based or home-cooked meal. People are very conscious of the way they spend their time. And I think the whole value of humanity has just been emphasized a lot more. People are so empathetic. Now we are seeing true human qualities coming out as a way of survival in the pandemic. I want to share some numbers with you guys. Tell me if you can share my screen.
Yeah, you can share your screen. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to put up these numbers. Can you see them?
No, you have to. Did you press the share screen?
Yeah. Hang on 1 second. Share. Okay. You should be seeing the numbers now. Are you seeing it?
Yeah.
This is what I see now. Is it your screen?
Are you seeing the pandemic numbers or not?
No, we're not seeing it.
Too small.
Yeah, okay. That's it. It's a bit small, but we can see it.
Okay, so guys, these are the numbers in Texas as at yesterday. Okay. Yeah. Our population in Texas is the size of the Malaysian population, correct, Nettie? You guys are about 30 million people?
Correct.
In Malaysia?
Yes.
In the last 7 days in Texas, we are averaging 11,659 new cases a day. We have 9,269 new or current hospitalizations as being recorded. Okay? We are recording an average of 188 deaths per day. All right? We have done over 12 million COVID tests. Our numbers in Texas are absolutely through the roof. We have, and if you can see this number, we have 1.3 million. Let me call the entire number out. 1,367,965 confirmed cases of COVID in the state of Texas. In the state of Texas alone.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot. That's massive.
I felt it was really important to share those numbers. Statistics reveal so much. And I know, Nettie, we shared the population of Malaysia and the alarming rate of numbers. And
it's about the population of Australia as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I compare where we are in Texas, and I must say we did not have any lockdowns. there was a lot of education and literature going out on how to do the right things, how to be smart, wearing masks, sanitizers, and we had an abundance of it. It was available, there was so much being given out. So people had access to supplies to protect them. They were educated, but yet our numbers continue to grow. One of the things I can say is we've had a significant number of job losses, but some were voluntary because the government, in the build up to election, we just had our elections, they were pumping so much stimulus. There was so much free money into the US economy. It was unbelievable. It got to a point where my hairdresser pretty much tells me she can't even get her workers to come back because the government stimulus is paying them more than their regular paycheck would be. So people
Really?
have opted to stay on the stimulus. There have been very, very healthy stimulus packages being given out as handouts for people to survive. Um, there was an entire moratorium on mortgages and stuff like that. So people, the government has helped the people significantly in managing the economic impacts, which would have been otherwise disastrous in the US. Though there are job losses, I think the government has provided a lot in terms of stimulus. There's a lot of humanitarian movements that are giving back. There are food banks everywhere for people who just can't get food. Um, Food banks are in every city, and you can just go on a Friday and get whatever you need. People are giving back. So I think the human side of people has certainly come out in Texas. I do believe one of our biggest contributors to those numbers is the fact that, here in the US, freedom is an entitlement. And um, I think in Malaysia, the level of the controlled movement is something that would have never, ever worked here. Again, because of the culture and what people are simply, or what people simply will not give into. I do believe that, people are smarter, they are wiser. The good news is we have vaccines. We had over 300,000 vaccines in Texas alone this year. They've started the distribution. Where I work, we're on a list of when we're going to be getting it. You pretty much know when you're going to get a vaccine based on your age, your job, and stuff like that. Healthcare workers are getting it as we speak. So the distribution of the vaccine in the market is fantastic. I think that will help in terms of controlling the numbers. We in the US are trying to get back to a new normal as soon as possible. We need to. And I think these are some of the measures that will help us.
But I think one of the things that you forgot as well, you talk about culture, Sabeeta, but there's also the leadership. I think the leadership in the US, had a role with what's happening, because if I just gonna compare with Australia. When we had, when they heard about the pandemic, they took action, and what was really magnificent, we have politicians, they just put a stop at politics, and they started to work together and really send this message that we are in it together, and we have to solve it together. Whatever we think, whatever we look like, we need to go through it. So get the discipline, and then everybody will be victorious at the end. And I think that was also a key one. There's a culture, but there's also the leadership. And we
You are correct.
just gonna have, because we have a lot of comments here we have Christelle. Christelle is she's Australian, but she's now in France. She lives in France, so she's been commenting quite a lot. She's talked about the traditional food from our community, wholesome and healthy. We should educate our community on our traditional knowledge of growing food and preparing food, and the way our ancestor, I miss your food, by the way, Christelle. So really good.
Great.
And then there's Terence from Florida, Coach Terence. and Mr. Unstoppable. So I think this question is directed to Adigun. Do you think Nigerian will take the vaccine when available? Any comment on that, Adigun?
Now, for that question for my lovely brother, I will tell you that the vaccine will be taken. Why? Because when you look at the statistic in Nigeria, over 50% are living in the urban area, and over 60% is living in the rural communities. Now, for the people living in the urban area, if you look at the statistics of deaths that have been recorded so far, majorly 70% of the 1,200 deaths, sorry, over 85% of the death rate is coming from the urban area. And I believe what the urban dwellers will grab it. However, for the rural community people still believe more in the traditional way of addressing diseases and controls. Even for facts, during our medical outreach as an NGO, we have seen that most of this vaccine does not get to the grassroots. By matter of fact, even if in Nigeria today, it did not get to the corridor of my village. But my village, we don't know on using the traditional approach to address it. But if the vaccine is available today, I believe the 40% population in the country will go for it. Most especially the politicians in Nigeria, they will definitely go for it.
And I think there's still a lot of suspicion. I mean, as far as the African, population is concerned, because they always have the feeling that, people take them as guinea pig and test everything on them. So I think right now, a lot of Africans are going to say no. They're going to wait for what's going to happen, in Europe and see, the impact if there are, secondary effect or things like that. But I don't think a lot, talking to a few people in Africa, that they're ready to just, like Adigun said, a politician might do it, but the population is still, very skeptical. And I see that Candice, hey Candice, she has a question. I'm curious, when will the vaccine will be available in Australia, Nigeria, and Malaysia? Australia, we took the decision not to have the vaccine now. We'll be waiting. We're not rushing into it, because right now our cases are very low. We've been at zero for 10 days. There have been a few cases in New South Wales, Sydney recently, I think 10 cases, but the numbers are not, going to the roof, and then all the borders are still closed. So there's no rush to go into it, and the economy has recovered. I think we're going good now with the economy as well. So I think it's not in a rush. I don't know about Malaysia. Do you have an idea, Neti, about it?
Malaysia, actually, we are talking with Pfizer and some other vaccine producers, but as of date, we don't have an actual date as to when the vaccine will be made available. Perhaps mid of next year. We're not too sure yet, because now I think vaccine is more expensive than gold. If you look at the commodity, all right, and because of that, countries are really paying out. Countries that can afford, actually, they are putting up forefront. Putting up down payments and things like that to make sure that vaccine is available in their country. So then again, as I said, a lot of politics into even getting the vaccine at the right time.
So Nettie, here's my question: do you think the culture of Malaysians? Do you think they'll take the vaccine?
All right, we have another issue here. This is again politicized, actually. The term halal, if you are familiar with it.
Yeah.
All right. There are some politicians who are writing on this and saying that it has to be halal certified. This is actually a joke, right? To
How are
me,
they
in
gonna
fact,
make it halal? It's gonna be difficult.
yeah, it will be difficult. In fact, it will take another 5 years, by the time we make it halal. So I find that absurd, all right? Because here we're talking about saving lives, no matter what the situation and circumstances are. So this is something that people have to start thinking. While halal is something that they believe in, but if you want to save life, you got to put that secondary because life comes first. In anything. So
That's a human cost factor when we talk about it.
correct. It's actually politically motivated, if I may say so.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna have a break and we'll come back and continue our conversation. Very dynamic. I mean, we have a lot of people right now. There's a lot of comments, but I can't put all the comments. Welcome, Candice. Thanks for your question. I hope we have addressed it. So don't go anywhere. We'll have a short break and we'll be back with our guest Adigun and Neti, and with my co-host Sabeeta. So we are back. We are back with our guest, and today we're focusing on the impact of COVID-19 and the human cost, with a specific focus on Africa and Asia Pacific, Malaysia specifically. And I don't know, do you have a question, Sabeeta, a specific question to our guest as we continue this very insightful conversation?
Yes, I think we've talked about how it has impacted the communities we live in and the communities we serve. But I'd like to hear from each of our guests how it has impacted you personally. How have you dealt with it? I know a lot of people have had mental challenges they've had to deal with to address, the entire lockdown. For example, for me, my personality, I'm very extroverted. So, a lot of, the confinements, meant me having to adjust down things as well. But I think with change, eventually it becomes a part of your routine. So, for example, when I go into the car, the first thing I put on is my seatbelts. Now, when I go into the car, I make sure I've got masks and extra masks in the car and sanitizers. So I think it's become built into my routine, so much so that it feels very strange if I don't have the tools I'm supposed to be stepping out of my house with. So how has it affected you guys on an individual basis? Nettie and then Adigun?
All right. Thank you, Sabeeta. Okay. Basically, I think for a start, you always tend to forget your mask. Many of us, we go out without having a mask on and things like that. But then because we called it the new norm, this is something, in fact, the government made it mandatory. Like if you're going into crowded places, you have close contact, close communication, it is required by law, right? Effective 1st of August, that you have to wear the 3-ply face mask. Okay, and then the hygiene part, every shopping malls, every centers, they have hand sanitizers available, right? And so people are required to use that. And then like malls and all that, we have local malls here that practice a certain number of people, like we have what we call a Aeon Mall, the Justco. Mrs. Sabeeta may be familiar with that, right? Yeah, they initially only allowed 45 people at one time. All right, they count. Yeah, right. And each time you got to take.
Parking must have been a dream then. I remember going to that mall and can't get parking. So yeah.
Yeah, right. Then again, education, continuous education. Like when I do consulting works for companies and all that, the one thing that I see is that a lot of them just take it very lightly until today, right? Of wearing face mask. I gotta tell them, you gotta pull up your mask right up to your bridge. You gotta pull it all the way down to your chin. Make sure it is fully covered. Now, this is something that you know continuous education, if I may say so, right? And also how to use hygiene, how to have a proper clean hands, and how not to. Yeah, Savita's got it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, uh, yeah, right. You got it. All right. So how to go about the new norm? This is something that you have to accept. All right. This is one way because previously I saw a documentary video made in Japan where they said when you cough or you sneeze, actually the physical distancing that we're practicing now, 1 meter, is actually not enough because if you were to sneeze, the first thing that happens is that this particulates become airborne for 7 to 8 seconds, and then it spreads right up to 2 meter, right? And then it settles down to become waterborne, right? So because of that, people get infected. And then people tend to hold on to this, hold on to that, trolleys, shopping carts, and all this kind of thing. So, but now many of the shopping malls, they make sure that the handle of the trolleys and shopping carts are sanitized. Companies are practicing disinfection at their work area. In fact, we also sell, the disinfection booth and all that. So people have to go through this disinfection chamber so that while they come out from the public and go to the organization, then they are required to go through this sanitization chamber. So these are some of the things that we are working on and still are.
So Nettie, one of the other questions before we get to Adigun is, for example, I have had to cancel. I had 2 business meetings earlier this year, and I had to postpone my trips because I don't want to spend 14 days in quarantine.
Right.
I know quarantine has been reduced to, is it 10 days now?
10 days
correct?
now, yes.
Do you think it's going to get better? Because a couple things. I worked in higher education. I worked at one of the larger private universities during my time in Malaysia, and I know international students have been extremely impacted. So universities are seeing a drastic drop in enrollments, and if quarantine and limited what should I say, arrival numbers, or because I think now you need an official letter, to get into Malaysia. You just can't get in. You need authorization, more prior authorization. If that continues, I mean, industries are going to.
I think, Sabeeta, we lost you.
Yeah, we lost Sabeeta. Okay. So there was a question before we get Sabeeta back. There was a question from one of the in the comment box here. So the question is from Christelle. She's saying it's very hard for government to manage a health crisis when scientific fact clashes with religious belief that are strong in certain population. How best should the government approach these instances? Who wants to, give, its insight on that? Adigun, any insight from your side?
Okay,
We're losing you again. The connection.
Let me try to to come. Let me try to come in that in that perspective. If you, yes, if you look at our traditional religion, hello.
Yeah, I can hear you, but it cuts sometimes.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yes,
Can
we
you
can
hear
hear
me?
you now, Adigun.
Okay. Now what I'm saying is, I'm hearing you loud and clear now.
It's
Nancy,
unstable.
are you hearing me?
It is
Unstable.
unstable. Yeah. Okay.
Hello.
So Adigun, maybe you want to re-enter. If you want to try and drop off and re-enter or refresh your connection because it's very unstable.
Are you hearing
No.
now?
Yeah, I think, I mean, if I can give a shot at this, Christelle, I think it comes down to communication and also
Oh
making
my
sure
God.
we involve all the spiritual or people or the religious leaders to educate, to actually communicate with their people, because I think it's a bit difficult for the government to be able to impact everybody. So I think they have to work with the religious leaders to make sure that they lead their communities properly and they have the right message so that they can actually manage the pandemic properly, because if they don't do that, it becomes difficult, because some people really just believe in what the religion is telling them. So they will have to work with the religious leaders who have a tremendous impact on their followers. So that I think how the government should work really through the religious leaders, so that they bring the right message and help their community to manage the pandemic properly. Um, Anything that you want to add, Sabeeta, on that?
No, I think leadership, you're right, especially the religious leaders as well. We all have a role to play. So most of the churches here have been doing online services, and people are tuning in. What I do see being impacted is their collections, and they're coming up with creative ways to maintain church collections so that they can continue and the operations can be sustainable. But
But,
I think
but
we all, not just the leaders, we all have a personal responsibility and a role to play in managing the pandemic. It's up to us to make a change and make a difference. I believe we've lost 2020. A lot of us, we've not just lost lives, we've lost jobs, we've lost a lot. We've lost the ability to move as freely as we want. But I think we all need to accept what has happened and move past it and find ways to push through into 2021, ways that are innovative, ways that are creative, ways that are very new to us. But I believe we should embrace the changes and work towards creating a better world to live in.
And anything, Adigun, you want to give it a try again, or are you back?
absolutely. I'm
Yeah,
back
yeah,
now. Are
we
you
can
hearing me
hear you
now?
now.
I think to me, if you look at the question, religious belief, it's we are talking about life and death. We're talking about sustainability of human race. Now, in Nigeria, what have we done in the religious sectors is to use all religious platforms to let people know that COVID is real. That's one. Now, whether politically,
Yeah, yeah.
whether we
Adigun,
are bringing politics into COVID management or not, This is all about human life. The fundamental part is COVID is targeting we fail us to actually.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Go ahead. Okay. So we go to native while Adigun is sorting out his connection.
What we just need to look more into this scientific.
Okay, all right. It's very. This last part is very difficult. Neti, what do you think? What is your view on this?
Okay, while religion is what I may say a very sensitive issue here in Malaysia,
Malaysia,
right?
yeah.
While we try not to deprive anyone of their religious belief, but I think we have to look from the practical viewpoint, right? As humans, while religion is a belief, we also have to ensure that, for them to continue to believe, they have to ensure that they live, probably, don't wait for the halal vaccine, go ahead with what you have now, make sure that the population is still there because every life counts, everyone, every single human, right? So from the humanitarian point of view, I think the leadership of any country for the matter plays an important role to make sure that they manage, they control and ensure that equality is given to everyone, okay, whether it's any race or religion or creed, so that's very important. Okay, this is not the time for you to, hype up on your political beliefs, right? This is more to hype up of what the people need, because people are out there. They don't even have, some of them, they find it so difficult to put food on the table, right? A lot of families, they come up with 4 or 5 children, right? And it's difficult for them. So it's difficult to make ends meet actually. So I think it's more important that people start opening their eyes, looking at the practical point of view, to ensure there's a consistency in continuing, in their daily lives, their businesses, their work, their education and things. Like what Adigun mentioned just now, yes, online businesses have been thriving, right? There's a certain number of businesses that have been thriving because of the pandemic, but many other companies, they are closing down. I've come across friends who have lost jobs. It's quite difficult, to have that, experience. Suddenly you've been working in an organization, you have taken loans, for your house, your car, and all of a sudden you lose all that, right? It's a little, rather a big challenge, if I may say so. So I think a government plays an important role to ensure that the leadership is there and that they go by the rule where what is recommended by WHO.
Fantastic. So, anything on your side, Sabeeta, because we couldn't actually finish, with you.
No, I think yeah, I kind of my connection kind of knocked off there. So I do apologize. No, I just wanted to say we all have a personal responsibility in terms of how we treat this pandemic, in terms of our adjustments and shifts that we need to make. And I think if we all take ownership of this as a project and manage it, I think 2021 will be a lot smoother for us,
Right.
because we are a lot more educated.
Right.
Okay, all right. So I mean, we've reached the hour, and we're getting ready to to go to the end. But before we leave, I always want the guests to give us their last message of hope, especially in this time of great challenge. So, what is your last message of hope to the audience today? We'll try again with Adigun, please. I think you're muted. Sorry, I had to mute you. Yeah. So go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sabeeta. Thank you so much, Mireille. Despite the pandemic across the world, we all need to embrace one thing. We all need to follow up with all our families, our friends, to know how they are doing as they're coping with the pandemic. No matter how tough the pandemic is on our ecosystem, when we come together as one, we can be able to overcome. A lot of families are not finding it easy. A lot of people have lost their job. We should not allow this to lead to depression within the woman sector. We should try as much as possible to show love, to show kindness to people around us, to let them know that no matter how worst pandemic could have destroyed our planet, together we are still stronger than pandemic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this powerful message, Adigun. It's been a pleasure to have you today as our guest. The technology tried to kick you out, but we got this message of hope, and we are so grateful for that. Neti, what is your last message of hope to the audience today?
Okay, Mireille and Sabeeta, thank you. And Adigun, it's been a pleasure. I think we all learned, I think, since 1929, when the Spanish flu first came into, there were more lives that were lost. I think at that particular time it was about 50 million. All right. And then the Ebola virus came in, and then now with this COVID-19, I think the most important thing, number one, is that we have to acknowledge that the pandemic is real, right? It is not something that is plucked from the sky. So we have to address that first, right? And then more importantly, the self-discipline, all right? Like I always say, safety starts with me. I have to be safe first in order for everyone else to be safe. So likewise, in this situation, I think we all have to take the extra necessary steps. This is a new norm. We have to make adjustment. It is not a matter of choice where you can choose A or B. All right, this is something that you have to ensure. Walk the talk. Right. Make sure that if you are going out in the public, make sure you have the proper PPE. Make sure you practice good hygiene. Make sure you try not to go into crowded places and things like that. And I think this is a time when more and more people need a hand, an extra hand. All right. So go the extra mile. Go out, help those who are in need. Right. There are many people out there who have hard time even having a meal a day. Right. I think just go out, give a helping hand, make the change, be the difference. Okay, so that lives will continue, the world will be a better place, and we truly hope 2021 will be a year that all of us can turn around and celebrate and say, hey, we made it through.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Nettie. You're right. We have to be the change we want to see in the world. So I want to thank you, Nettie. I know it's 1 o'clock in the morning there. Again, your commitment to being so selfless and giving has shown through again. And I want to thank you for all the work you're doing in Malaysia and beyond, and continue doing what you're doing, because you are making a difference. And you are, I'm sitting in Texas and I follow everything that's going on in Malaysia. And you've educated me a lot with all the things that you share. And I'm sure, a lot of people feel the same way. Thank you for doing what you are doing, and thank you for being a guest on this show. And I want to personally, wish you and all of Malaysia, the world, as a matter of fact, all the best for 2021. I know this is our December wrap up, so I believe firmly that next year will be a better year. I refuse to believe anything else but that, and we will make it through, because we are resilient. We will survive, and we will make the best out of this situation. Adigun, my brother, I want to thank you. I want to wish you guys in Nigeria all the best, and continue doing all that you're doing. And thank you for being a guest on our show. Mireille, my sister, my love is always with you.
Yes, it's amazing to see, And for me, it's really about greatness in everything that I do. And I think we've brought greatness today. And all of you, I'm always hopeful, and I know that 2021 is going to be amazing. We entering 2021 with a lot of resilience, with a lot of knowledge as well, and understanding now that we are all connected. And even if the management of the pandemic start with us, we have to be conscious that we have to take care of our neighbor. We have to take care of our people, or even very far from us, because the impact, they have an impact in our life because we all connected, and that's what this pandemic has shown. And we're going to be okay as long as we understand that we are all part of this humanity. We are connected, and and if we really take our responsibility where we are, everything will be okay. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Nati. Thank you, Adigun, again. It's been amazing to have our first man guest on,
Right.
this. So it's really, really amazing to see that. And thank you to the audience. Thank you, Christelle, for staying until the end. It's been great. Thanks for participating, and I hope we've been able to help you understand a little bit the dynamic in other countries, and how and you could get something from this conversation to bring into your house, to bring where you are, and start to implement some of the things that were shared today. So thank you, everybody. It's early morning for us here in this part of the world, and we're getting ready to go to bed. But it's been amazing and worth staying, awake until now. So thank you. Bye bye.
Happy
Thank you.
holidays,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Happy
Happy holidays.
holidays. Be safe.
Merry Christmas.
Holiday, Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
And for some of you, I'm only gonna see you, next year. So bye bye, and take care of yourself. Remain blessed and stay safe.
Stay
Bye.
safe, guys. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.